My, what a coincidence. Nancy Pelosi's husband sold over $500,000 worth of Visa stock just weeks before the DOJ's antitrust lawsuit against that company, according to the New York Post. In case you missed it, the Justice Department has sued Visa on Tuesday, accusing the company of illegally monopolizing the debit card market and driving up prices for businesses and consumers. The suit alleges Visa handles more than 60% of debit card transactions, rakes in over $7 billion in annual processing fees. The suit further alleges that Visa used its market power to stifle competition and keep fees high. Statement Attorney General Merrick Garland said, quote, "We allege that Visa has unlawfully amassed the power to extract fees that far exceed what it could charge in a competitive market. Merchants and banks pass along those costs to consumers, either by raising prices or reducing the quality of service. As a result, Visa's unlawful conduct affects not just the price of one thing, but the price of nearly everything." Meanwhile, Paul Pelosi, the former House Speaker's husband, sold 2,000 shares worth of Visa between $500,000 and $1 million. That's according to a July 3rd congressional filing. The time Pelosi sold his stock, there was no public indication that an antitrust lawsuit against Visa was imminent. A spokesperson for Representative Pelosi told the Post, quote, "Speaker Pelosi does not own any stocks, and she has no prior or subsequent involvement in any transactions." Right? It's not her. Just the husband, who has all sorts of stocks in lots of company. Famously, they had stock in Facebook as well. So it's possible this is all above board and is a coincidence and has nothing to do with this forthcoming investigation. But a lot of people are going to have a hard time believing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people would have a hard time believing that, regardless of which member of Congress it was or which spouse of which member of Congress it was. I think the whole idea of members of Congress being able to trade stocks freely. Yes, in this case, it's not the member, it's her spouse, but it's inherently dodgy. I mean, there is an inherent assumption that people have access to some kind of inside information. I assume Paul Pelosi and now Congresswoman, rather than Speaker Pelosi, would say that they had no knowledge and that it was all above board, as you say. But on a sort of smell test, it smells pretty shady.
And Speaker Pelosi, when she was Speaker, she was famously opposed, or at least opposed for some time, very reluctant to endorse or sign off on or move forward with the Stock Act, the efforts to prohibit members of Congress from doing just that, from trading in stocks or their close family members. She famously said, well, we're not going to do that because we're a capitalist country. And I'm like, I'm for capitalism. But capitalism is not when the people setting the rules get to participate in, like, that's the job of Congress, is to be regulating and to setting some structure. You know, we disagree with what the regulation should be or the extent of them, but that is not is the government getting to play in the marketplace in ways market actors can't even. Right. Because market actors, if they have insider information, they're not able to use that. Congress, by the nature of the work they do, is going to accrue insider information because they get briefed on these kinds of things. They get heads up on investigations that are going to take place. So whether it's right for them to be able to play in the stock market, and we know they use this unethically. We know when the pandemic was about to happen, members of Congress, there were Republican members of Congress, this is not a partisan thing whatsoever, that used that effort, that information immediately to dump stocks in certain companies and, you know, buy in pharmaceutical companies, given that the pandemic was coming down the pipeline. This is all grossly unethical. It horrifies the American people. It is something that Americans, left, right, and center, don't want their politicians engaged in. But we need the politicians themselves to agree to pass legislation not to do this, and that's never going to happen.
No, although some unlikely ideological bedfellows have. I mean, if I'm recalling correctly, Congressman Gates and Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez were both favouring actions to prohibit this or to greatly limit.
And both Josh Hawley and progressive Democrats in the Senate have agreed to do it. So there are, you know, this is the horseshoe. There are the people the mainstream media derides as extremists speaking for the American people on this issue, but it not going anywhere.
No, and I think that one of the reasons why the American people have such an objection to it is it may not meet the legalistic definition of insider trading, but in layperson's terms, if you are a member of Congress, you are going to know what's coming down the pike. You're going to be privy to briefings that a regular member of the public is not privy to. You're going to have a feel for what legislation may pass or may not pass, what regulation may be coming or not coming. All of those things play into business decisions, business outlooks, a decision on whether company X, Y, or Z are shares that you should buy or sell. And so in that sense, it just seems blatantly unethical.
Now, let's talk a little bit about this actual investigation by the DOJ into Visa. They're saying monopolistic practices, unfair marketplace competition, raising prices, that kind of thing. I'm interested to learn more about this and what their argument exactly is. I guess my skepticism would be that it's not like your debit card is your only. I mean, there's so many. They compete against credit cards. Now they're competing against PayPal and everything else we use to pay each other. I'm thinking of Venmo.
Sure.
It seems like the marketplace for things you can use to make financial transactions has gotten way more competitive in recent times. So maybe they're just narrowly focused on only the debit card space. Visa has some kind of unfairness, but like they can lose ground to just other methods of paying people. So I guess I have a little bit of skepticism.
The thing that I'm going to be most curious about when the details come out is what are Visa alleged to be doing that American Express or MasterCard or whomever is not alleged to be doing. I can see an argument that says if you are any one of the companies that I've just named and you go to a small business owner, for example, and say, look, if our card is used in your business, you have to give us, whatever percentage. And the business owner says, well, that percentage is too high. And Visa or whomever just says, well, that's tough because we are the behemoth financial company and you're not, and we're going to use our muscle to force you to use our products. Now, that could theoretically happen, but again, it gets back to the point of are Visa doing that in some more nefarious or overreaching way than anybody else in the industry?
Yeah, this comes up again and again. Is the product in a dominant market position because it's doing something unfair or illegal, or is it in a dominant market position because it's a preferred service?
It's popular,
and,
right.
and also because they use, you say force, but if they say that we want you to use our card and
right.
That's what your customers want, and here's what it costs, and the entity on the other end says, oh, that's unfair, we don't want to pay for that, but that's what their customers want. They're just kind of using the fact that they're a desirable market product to get more out of the market. I don't know that that's unfair in the sense that, whoa, life is unfair, I wish I could pay less for things, but it's not unfair unless it's actually illegal. And for antitrust, you have to, the new thinking that like Lina Khan is a part of is very much about how it should be, how firms need to compete in the marketplace in a way that is fair to their rivals. But really the basis of antitrust law for decades and decades has been harm to consumer. Not like you're not obligated to treat firms you're competing against
right.
what's fair. They're trying to beat the other firm. Sure. Now, if there's demonstrable harm to the consumer that's demonstrated, then you can make some kind of case. But what happens, at least a lot in the tech sector, because Lina Khan has gone after, the government has gone after all, Amazon and Apple and Google and et cetera, is that these are products that people like using, and that is where their dominating position stems from, for the most part. So I have skepticism.
I share your skepticism in a lot of ways. I just wonder to the point of harm to the consumer. Yeah. Let's say, and I'm picking these figures out of thin air because we don't have the details of exactly what the suit alleges yet, but say, for example, Visa said, every transaction using our card, there's a 10% cut for us. And you could then at least hypothetically argue that is a harm to the consumer because the cost is so large that those costs get passed on to the consumer and falsely inflate the price of goods or services, right? That would be a harm done. Now, then you get back to the question of is Visa dominant? It plainly doesn't have a monopoly, but is it so dominant that its power and influence needs to be curbed?
If it is a harm, is the remedy just, I'm going to use Venmo more often?
Yeah, possibly.
All right, we'll be back with more Rising right after this.